Good morning and welcome to today's pre-deployment conference. As a fellow spouse and parent, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. I know that your time is precious and childcare can be costly. So I hope that by sharing the ups and downs of my first deployment as a wife and a mom, you'll be able to avoid some of the mistakes that I made and find ways for you to not just survive, but thrive during your own upcoming deployments. Before I had my son and before I was even married, I did 4 deployments all throughout the Western Pacific. And each time my ships pulled away from the pier and I'd see the families gathered and the tears that were being shed, I would roll my eyes and think, gosh, why are they so upset? They've got the easy job. They get to stay home, go to bed in their own beds, eat whatever they want, have uninterrupted Wi-Fi. They have no idea how lucky they are. Oh, how little did I know in those very young and naive years of my 20s. Turns out that thought returned to seek revenge on me during my first deployment as a wife and a mom. You can obviously see that I'm a naval officer, but what you might not know is that my husband and I are actual dual military. He is a surface warfare officer stationed aboard a ship. I'm a public affairs officer in the Navy Reserves, and together we have a 15-month-old little boy. And while I have experience with my own deployments as a service member, I've also experienced them now from a family perspective as a mom and as a wife. And I know the emotional roller coaster that our families feel at home and the stressors that we endure while the ships are away at sea. Deployed life is hard. And I think we can all agree that deployed life while being stationed overseas is doubly hard. However, merely surviving every day until the kids go to bed or surviving the 6 months until the ship comes home isn't thriving. And we all deserve to live equally happy and healthy lives, even though our spouses are gone. Deployment life can be tough on Navy families, but having the right infrastructure in place can help ease the emotional, mental, and psychological burdens that develop while ships are at sea. So today we're going to talk about how to identify those stressors, how to mentally and emotionally prepare yourself for deployment, and finally the resources that are available here in Yokosuka for you and your family while the ships are away. Today we're focusing on you, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of everyone around you. As my son and I waved goodbye to my husband as his ship pulled away from the pier, that first deployment, I thought to myself, psh, we've got this. See you in 6 months, honey. Have fun in those foreign ports. Send me a couple emails. We'll send you some care packages. It'll all be good. I thought this time would be so similar to all the rest. But little did I know just how much everything had changed for us. Whether or not you realize it, the emotional roller coaster of deployment is a very real and recognized thing. When your service member departs, it's common to have feelings of anxiety and fear and loneliness. But equally so, you can also experience feelings of being kick-ass and awesome and feeling like you're on top of the world. One day I would feel like I was so on top of my game. I'd have a to-do list a mile long and I would check everything off from beginning to end. And then the next day we'd struggle to get out of the house and dressed by 3 p.m. I felt so embarrassed and ashamed. Here I was, a deployment veteran, and I had these rising and falling emotions that would leave me feeling wrecked at the end of each day. What I didn't know at the time, though, was that this is totally normal, and a key element to combating this is communication. Military OneSource is a great website for all things related about military life, especially deployment. And one of their biggest pieces of advice is to keep the communication lines open between yourself and your spouse, or a command representative, or a friend who understands exactly what you're going through, a chaplain or a counselor. Know that it's okay to have these types of dark, frustrating feelings, but the important part is to not wallow in that dark time. You have to pick yourself back up into the sunlight and keep forging on, preferably with a smile. It's also highly recommended to connect with other families and spouses who are part of the ship, and do that before the ship even leaves. Battle buddies apply not just to our service members, but also to the spouse community. It's helpful to bond with others who are experiencing the same ups and downs of deployment right alongside of you. Since that first deployment, my husband and I have now determined that our biggest problem was that we didn't prepare. We went on a quick family vacation right before the ship left, and then as soon as we got back, he left almost immediately. The first few months were so hard for me. I thought we'd slip right back into my old deployment routine. It had worked last time when we were childless and I was working full time, but this go around was so different and neither one of us had expected that. Preparation is key in all things, especially deployment. Mentally and emotionally preparing to handle the ups and downs of deployment is essential to your success. We all know that there are days when you just throw in the towel before 10 a.m., let the kids run rampant, you don't get to take a shower, and everyone eats cereal for dinner. Trust me, we've all been there. But it's important to know that you need to have a routine, to set goals for yourself. I realized that I needed to make a bigger effort to work out on a more routine basis. So I factored that into my weekly schedule. I also realized that I needed to get away from my son. So I started volunteering 2 to 3 times a week. So I found a running partner and I had a regular volunteering schedule. Deployment is the perfect time also to make a master to-do list of all those projects that you've always wanted to accomplish but have never had the time to tackle. Choose to do something that ultimately makes you happy though. Set goals and make it happen. Whatever it is, try to get out of the house routinely and focus on something for yourself. But sometimes the biggest challenge of deployment is not knowing what you don't know. For instance, one of my favorite bloggers from Huffington Post, who's also an Air Force veteran and military spouse, didn't know that her base offered reduced hourly child care for deployed families. How awesome is that? But she didn't know about it until she sought out some family resources while her husband was away. There's no shame in not knowing what you don't know. But oftentimes as spouses, we want to already know all the information, or at least we think we do. It's okay though to not have it all together all the time. It's important to ask for help and seek out those resources that can provide you the answers. Here in Yokosuka, the hub of our resources is the Fleet and Family Support Center, which is across the street from the commissary in the Community Readiness Building on the 3rd floor. The office provides counseling support, workshops and classes, transition assistance if you're just arriving in Japan, PCS preparation in case you're getting ready to leave, spouse employment support if you're looking to work while the ship is away, and family advocacy. Additionally, your command leadership team of your CO, XO, and senior enlisted spouses, as well as your ombudsman, are all there solely to support the families and spouses of the command. They're knowledgeable individuals who've more than likely done several deployments of their own, so they can provide you answers and put you in the right direction no matter what the situation may be. Deployment life is tough on Navy families, but having the right infrastructure and preparation in place can help ease the emotional, mental, and psychological burden while the ship is away at sea. Identifying those stressors, knowing how to mentally prepare for the ups and downs of deployment, and finally, knowing the resources that are available here in Yokosuka are key factors to your success while the ship is deployed. Deployment's tough and everybody experiences it in their own way, but know that it doesn't merely have to be a time of survival. You can thrive too, and before you know it, the ship will be home. Might not feel like it at the time, but looking back, that deployment will seem like just a blip on the calendar of life. That first deployment was tough for me as a wife and a mom, but I eventually found a groove, established a routine, a better communication plan with my husband, and we ended deployment on a high note. There were dark days, trust me, lots of tears and lots of wine, but I learned how to pull myself up out of that darkness with the help of good friends, and I figured out what I needed to do for myself to support everyone around me, and I hope you'll do the same. So I wish you the best of luck in your upcoming deployments, and may you thrive, not just survive, while the ship is at sea.